How to make pom-poms. To begin, we'll need our yarn, a pom-pom maker, and a sharp pair of scissors. This pom-pom maker has two halves, and each half is divided into two sides to make it easier to remove the pom-pom from the pom-pom maker. I'm simply going to grab my working yarn. I'll leave a little bit of a tail to wrap over to anchor it in place. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap my yarn around the half circumference of my pom-pom maker. So I'm just traveling back and forth across the width of the pom-pom maker, wrapping the yarn around as evenly as possible. I'm not putting too much tension on my yarn. I'm holding it fairly slack in my hand. And I'm making sure to get right to each edge of the pom-pom maker, and as I'm now traveling back across, I'm filling in any gaps that were left in my first pass. And I will be wrapping my yarn around this half of the pom-pom maker until it is nearly full. And I'll continue as established, wrapping back and forth along the width of my half pom-pom maker. You'll want to fill your pom-pom maker until it's quite full. The best way to tell when it's ready is if, once you've completed a pass, if you flip it over, the top should be just slightly concave. You'll simply fasten that back into the rest of the pom-pom maker, trim your yarn off, and repeat the same process for the opposite half of the pom-pom maker. So I'm just anchoring my yarn in place for the time being by wrapping around that tail. And I'll continue going back and forth until it's as full as the other half of my pom-pom maker. Once my pom-pom maker is full, I'll fold the other half in and trim my yarn. I'm then going to take my very sharp scissors and insert them in the center groove of the pom-pom maker. And I'm going to cut in that groove, separating these strands of yarn. It is best to have very sharp scissors for this, as a good pom-pom will have a lot of yarn. I'm just going to make sure that I've gotten all of the strands before I turn my pom-pom maker around and repeat for the opposing side. And I'm being certain to get through all of the strands. Now that I'm nearing the edge, I'll just go back and ensure that I've gotten every strand as I've been cutting and catching any strands that I've missed. I'm going to cut a length of yarn at least about 10 inches long, and I'll insert that into that central groove of the pom-pom maker, wrapping it all the way around and tying a knot and securing that until I feel resistance. If you pull it too tight, you risk snapping your yarn, and too loose and all your fibers will fall out. So you want to tighten until there's some resistance. I'm going to open my pom-pom maker back up. And I can now pull apart the two sides of the pom-pom maker for the moment of truth. Okay, it looks like we have a pom-pom. I'm going to hold the strand that I used to tie the pom-pom secure with in my hand to avoid trimming it. And I'll again take my very sharp scissors and just trim that pom-pom into a nice, pleasing, uniform, round shape. Fluffing it up every once in a while just to make sure it's looking good. I'm going to keep trimming until my pom-pom is perfect, and that is how you make pom-poms.